One of your strengths from your previous positions as cultural relations director and a member of state committee, do you think will benefit you most as PCN director? How do you hope to grow those positions with the community you will be leading?
I think a strength was simply being able to see the process more closely. As I've been in PCN my freshman year, but this is the first year that I actually got to see it behind the scenes, and I actually got to work with other people on the board, see what that collaboration looks like, see what collaboration with people beyond Kasamahan looks like, see what that communication looks like. I think a strength is just knowing the parts of the process that are already there, already having connected to the people that I need to speak to, already knowing what CAST looks like and experiencing two PCNs. I feel like the strength in that is the connections I've made and what I've learned from the people who have come before me.
I've been asking this to people that don't have any other candidates running against them. If there were other candidates, what would make you stand out? What would convince us of your intention in our community and the potential for it to grow?
I think what makes me stand out is my determination and my understanding that as a person and as a leader, I am not perfect and I never will be. And I know that might not sound like a plus, but to me, I always strive to do better. And I don't think that I can ever achieve my best yet, so I always push for it. I push for that excellency within myself so that I can match what other people give me, so that I can do better for the people that I want to make proud. What I can bring is my care and love within this space. And when I push myself to do that for the people that I care about, I do it regardless. It's what I'm passionate about, it's what keeps me going. When I'm tired, when I want to give up, it's this space, it's this people, it's the show, and it's everything that goes behind it that makes me want to keep going. And I think that is what makes me stand out.
So the PCN cast seems to get bigger and bigger each year, with each director hoping to accomplish more than the year before. How do you plan to manage a large cast size with the limited resources available to you regarding props, attire, and needs, while honoring your personal vision and aspirations for the show?
I think this would go along with having to communicate a lot with, in terms of our budget, with treasurer. Because CAST is a lot bigger, but that also means that our budget would need to be more realistic in that sense. So it would be communicating a lot with treasurer in terms of coming up with a realistic budget. What attire is realistic? What props are realistic? Of course we want to meet that vision, but not at the expense of our funds and the future of this organization. And in terms of managing a larger cast, not just prop-wise, but extended to membership, is really leaning on board in CC when it comes to organizing people, when it comes to making sure we can communicate effectively with other aspects of CAST, and also ensuring that people pay their dues.
Okay. With your past experience with PCN, even if you don't have much, I know you do. What is something that you think you can introduce or improve on in order to enhance the PCN experience for yourself and your cast members?
I think one thing that I do think about a lot is making sure intention is felt within every single person. And of course, that starts with me, that would start with CC, and that would start with board, making sure that everyone close understands that and has those same intentions so that we can foster that within leads, and so that leads can foster that same passion and intention within members. And I know that's easier said than done because the cast is so large, but fostering that sense of community, culture, and care takes time and effort. But I feel like integrating that within core people first and spreading it out within membership would be a nice way to really explore and deepen the cultural understanding within the show as well.
What's your why?
What's my why? Okay. My why is hard to pinpoint to one thing. My why for being in this space is I love my culture. I love the people in this space. I love the joy that they bring me. I love the found family that I have within it. My why for running for PCN Director is I love this culture and I love the show. And I love the fact that performance is one way to make people listen and to make people care and for people to learn. And it's also a way that a lot of people like to explore that form of learning. But I also like the fact that performance is a way to get people to listen, like I said. I want to be able to get people in this space to learn about their culture in a less, I guess, classroom type or like lecture type way, but still be able to have that same type of feeling towards it, that same type of understanding, just in a different format, because I believe that learning comes in different formats.
This is kind of like a multi-layered question, so take your time. But what is the most magical moment you've experienced in PCN? What is the most tumultuous moment you've experienced in PCN? And how do those drive you in your intentions for running for this position?
Okay, I have my answer for most magical. I'll think about the most tumultuous one. The most magical was freshman year, the first ever time I saw Singville perform. Specifically, when I saw Brandon, Christian, and Nolan do their solos. That, to me, was magical because I've never seen a Singville piece in person perform, so that was the first time. And to me, that's really special. And that feeling, just seeing that and seeing like how their performance was so impactful, that feeling is what drives me. In terms of most tumultuous, I need to think about that one. I think it's kind of hard because I often don't think of the bad parts in life as really bad. I just kind of like to think of them as moments of growth. So I'll also pick freshman year of PCN. Like learning lines from skit and being yelled at by Ate Erna was very tumultuous my freshman year because I had never been yelled at by Ate Erna before. And y'all who this is your first year of PCN, it's kind of scary, but it helps. I guess that whole day was very tumultuous emotionally because it was like a very high and a very low, and it was my first PCN ever. And I think, because I just have a very growth mindset, whenever I come into situations that are hard like that, I like to think of it as necessary and a necessary point of growth. So what drives me is that I know things can always get better from there, and that even if hardships like that happen, that doesn't mean that that's the ending point. It just means where can we go from here. And I think that that mindset, regardless of the situation, is what drives me. And within PCN specifically, I think as well, that was more like a wake-up call, yeah, that sucked, but hey, what can we do now about that situation? How can we turn it around and make it better?
Hi.
Okay, so PCN Director is undoubtedly a really difficult role, and I think it requires you to be centered within yourself while also leading a committee, being present on the board, and also being present with the cast. So past PCN directors and cultural directors have grown resentment oftentimes for the space during and after their term in this period of Philippine Culture Night, from practices to the actual presentation of the performance. So how would you best combat burnout and continue the passion and love for your role in your community?
I guess I'm also thinking more on the preventative side. It is very hard to do something like this, and it is very hard to plan a whole event alone. But as PCN Director, you would have your CC, and I would lean on them when I do need help. I would also let people know on board and on CC when I'm feeling burnt out, why, or if I need time. Leaning on board, leaning on CC, I think my way of combating burnout is leaning on the people I care about and the people who care about me. Because oftentimes, I know it's easier said than done that, oh, I'm just going to take a step away, I'm going to take time to myself, because I also know that I'm not necessarily that type of person. Because it's very hard for me to step away from something when I know it's my responsibility to do something. But I think, for me personally, and a growing point and something I need to recognize is it's okay to not know what to do at all times. It's okay to lean on people. It's okay to ask for help. And I think that would help me combat burnout. And I think just keeping in mind why I care about these people, why I care about this space, is what would help me also continue to want to be present.
Ari?
In a Filipino org, naturally you will encounter people from the Philippines and Filipino Americans who may have differing opinions with how Filipinos are represented on stage. For example, we had a long discussion, or CC had a long discussion regarding a non-Filipino individual leading an indigenous piece. How would you go about working through and addressing differing opinions where both sides hold valid?
I think it comes with also understanding that, because from my perspective, I'm from the Philippines, but I've also lived in America. I'm also half white. So this is a conversation that I had in a class about the identities that we hold and holding space for people. As someone who is not full Filipino, I also acknowledge to not take up as much space in conversations. I know that it is also my responsibility to pull back and acknowledge that. At the same time, I also acknowledge that a majority of us are also hosts and guests to the indigenous cultures that we choreograph and we perform. They aren't cultures that we come from, they're cultures that we have to respect and uphold. I think it's difficult to have those conversations, but it is necessary. And I think involving multiple people from different sides within the conversation, also asking culture bearers and people from outside organizations or people who have knowledge on the subject as well, what they would also think is culturally appropriate could benefit that as well. I think it's necessary to have these conversations, and I never would want to shy away from them, but I think depending on the context, it would also differ how to approach it. In terms of like cultural accuracy and representation, definitely I would also want to consider consulting an outside source, not just membership, or consulting other people for a more varied perspective, because I think what's important in those conversations too is not simply like what I would think, but also like people other than me, like CC or like Ford or Parangal or Agos, like involving more people in the conversation I think would help bring a more layered view to it. In order to share.
We know cultural director is heavily surrounded by PCN. You will also help us learn while you are learning. As Academial instilled in us, it takes a bargain. And in learning through dialogue and space is important. How do you plan on sharing a cultural space with other USF cultural organizations, as well as other spaces like dance companies and cultural programs? What do you have planned for those who don't have a PCN? Will you have a plan?
So this is also something that I guess I was thinking about, like in terms of when I was running for CRD, is the second semester also gets so busy, and a lot of it is focused on PCN or PCN related activities. But I was also hoping to collaborate with the cultural relations Relations Director in order to plan, yes, cast bonding events, but also events that showcase membership who aren't involved in PCN, like, hey, this is what we're doing, or hey, do you also want to learn about this even if you're not necessarily doing PCN, if you're not involved in this, giving membership an opportunity to learn about what we're also doing and also different aspects of the culture that are related to the show, because realistically, I also would know that my attention and time would be very heavily focused on PCN in the second semester. But I think in terms of going beyond that and incorporating different things within the scope and involving other Kasamas who aren't in PCN, it would come with collaborating with other board members on events that we could do that can possibly integrate people who aren't in CAS. And in terms of collaborating with outside organizations, I would love to communicate with outside organizations that I do know around the area that also do dance. Like, we already collaborate a lot with Panama and Agos, but it was nice to see you bring Barangay here in this space, and I think making it known that they also have workshops and talking to them maybe and holding that space could also be beneficial. In terms of other cultural orgs, maybe talking to them about different events. I know a lot of them have events in the first semester, and that's also involved with dance troupe and CRD's position. But in terms of like during the second semester, what I could do, I could help provide support to the Cultural Relations Director and also help them communicate with any other organizations such as Varsity who do have events in the first semester, Cityscape, and second semester.
Oh, it's like.
You both
You
can.
both, okay, so good.
Okay. PCN Magic is like a big thing that we like sponsor for the space and like advertise like for participating in PCN. How like with your best like PCN Magic definition, how can you like, recreate that for someone who's searching for it?
I think that definitely PCN Magic comes within, like, not just the good parts, but also the parts where we struggle together. I don't think that I can, like, safely go in and say that there's one way to create it, because every cast is different, every person is different. But I hope that within having conversations with CC, board, and leads, that having those conversations to instill the passion behind it, the drive behind it, like, why are we here? Why are we doing this? Have those conversations with leads, board, and CC first, so that we can have those conversations within our aspects and as a group, and have that, I guess, be a continuous process so that, like, we feel more integrated. We feel like we're in this together. We know when we're struggling. We know when we're struggling together. And I feel like PCN Magic is what comes with that sense of community. What comes with the, oh, I want to stay here, I want to watch your entire dance, even though this isn't my practice. The drive and the want to see your friends, see people you know. And I think that comes with time. But I think if I can foster that early enough, and that leads can foster that early enough, and CC can, and board can, I feel like it is possible to create that and instill that.
My final question for you is, what excites you about this position? What new ideas do you hope to bring to this community and build on the past 51 years that have come before you while setting up for those who will come after?
I think a lot excites me about this. I think it's exciting to just know that I can be a part of the process of something that I care about so much, with people that I care about so much. And I think a lot. I don't stop thinking. My brain is constantly just do. So one thing that I did think would be kind of interesting, and then when I was just like joking around with Jewel, was possibly an alumni piece. Inviting alumni back, collaborating with Garo. Ate Danielle, our advisor, is also an alumni, so maybe even asking her if she could be a part of this show and if she could, I guess, showcase that we have such a strong alumni network, and it only feels right to be able to, I guess, invite them back into the space, not just as observers and watchers and supporters, but also to be a part of the show. I know it's a little bit of an ambitious idea, but it's something that I think could be really great if pulled off. And I think that having that, and maybe not even just making it a regular thing, but have it be something that could be recreated in